Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. If this content resonates, please like and subscribe. Today, my guest is Tristen Stawicki. Tristen is a grounded guide for women who are at a critical crossroads. She stands at the intersection of soul and science, is a certified shaman in the Kiro tradition with an MBA, blending ancient wisdom with modern strategic insight. Tristen's practical strategy and intuitive insight has helped executive leaders and entrepreneurs experience unprecedented growth and values-aligned leadership style. She's a creator of Musings and Modalities framework, specializing in helping deep feelers, spiritual seekers, and sensitive achievers through cycles of transformation and burnout. She helps them pause, process, and ultimately build their lasting personal legacy. Welcome, Tristen.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. I love that you're at the intersection of soul and science. I think that is I can definitely resonate with that because as a web designer for spiritual entrepreneurs, I'm always saying, I provide the logic, but I try not to lose the magic while
Absolutely.
doing it. So I can definitely get that. So let's maybe start with what is a shaman and how did you become one?
I'm first and foremost a skeptic of kind of the spiritual world. And I start there because, as someone that has been surrounded by engineers and developers my entire career, I'm very much a logical, data informed person. And I found when I went through my spiritual journey, when I went through EMDR therapy, very intensive therapy, and found that, that wasn't quite enough. Came to Reiki, which is such a beautiful energy healing that's very gentle, it's very helpful. And then I felt through the teachers that I had in that there needed to be more. I needed that next level. And so when I think about kind of the differences between Reiki and being a shaman, I often equate it to getting your master's in energy versus your doctorate. And so with shamanism, it's very much a multi-year experience and really over your entire lifetime, where you're honoring each of the directions, you're honoring the wisdom and history of the various indigenous communities, and you're also honoring your own journey. First and foremost, to become a shaman isn't because you want to be a shaman for other people, it's because you're seeking deeper healing and deeper alignment within yourself. And the tools that are used within that are past life clearing, soul retrievals. I think of it as a toolkit where it's your heavy duty tools. Um, I don't want to say more than to compare to Reiki, but it is a different experience than someone sending you warming, calm energy. It's very much like if there's some deep tools that are needed and deep healing, almost to the point of like energetic surgery. That's what I think of shamanism to that level.
Yeah, it could be a bit of an upheaval in some ways as opposed to just kind of bathing over the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's kind of the difference of like we send beautiful thoughts to people and then you help them through that. To kind of take a phrase through a friend, Sandy Davis, it's like come into popularity, that messy middle. And so when you think about when someone's in that full transformation, full shed of their identities, like I love to be held with the tools of shamanism because I feel like it can hold all of that mess in a really beautiful way.
right. It's all encompassing. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter what you throw at it. You can pretty
Right.
much handle it, right?
Absolutely. No, definitely.
So you have a corporate background yourself, and you said that you don't normally do the shamanism thing specifically for other people initially. Were you doing it for yourself?
Absolutely. And it really took my teacher encouraging me. I typically am that person that I'm always searching for healing within myself and bettering myself. And it's been a beautiful opportunity where others have seen that that kind of calling even before I do, where they go like, no, actually, like the way you're picking this up, the way I'm able to match even their level of teaching very quickly, they're like, this is deeper than you kind of doing work for yourself. You need to share this with others. It is part of your soul's path. And so in the beginning, I was very hesitant, right? I was very hesitant to call myself a shaman publicly. And so as I've been shedding identities myself through this work, it's been so helpful to kind of build the foundation of my business as I help, others, especially women, share the past identities they had as they move, from that very mother energy to maybe that beautiful crone energy as they move into different transitions in their career and as they, maybe change who their romantic partners are and are finding the girl they were at 16 or 19 had such freedom and autonomy and they really feel like they miss that energy in their life.
So you pivoted from the engineering, or you were in IT, I think, right?
I was a product manager, and so I still do actual fractional product work. I haven't quite let that go yet. It's interesting if that's gonna happen. I keep getting the tugs of like, do you still need this identity? I still enjoy working on software products, and I tell people I see the best in people and products, and I feel like there's such a beautiful overlap in that. But of course, when the universe calls you to fully focus on something, we'll see if in the next year or two, if I, do my own kind of again cycle of transition, which continuously kind of happens, I feel like every 18 months or so.
Right. You'll know it when it happens, if it happens.
Yep, absolutely.
So you mentioned past life clearing and soul retrievals. Are those the primary tools that the shaman uses?
Those are two of the heavier duty ones. Energy clearing is actually probably the most used. So entity. So I think we've all walked into a space and we went like, oh, vibes are off, or oh, that person at a party, I don't think we're gonna hang out very much. And so, oftentimes that's attaching to maybe beliefs we have about ourselves, maybe attaching to us because, there's some opportunity to heal. And so, rather than kind of feeling that Eeyore energy, for lack of a better phrase, or that energy that you just feel like isn't yours or is ready to be changed, that is a basis of a lot of my work. And then as part of that, it uncovers maybe you have past lives where this has been a theme, or even there could have been a traumatic experience in this life or a past life where the soul actually fragments. And I had this personally when I was 8 years old, where there was a shard of my soul that just in my late 20s, I was able to do this work and have it come back. But it's really interesting how the body saves us and how the body protects us and on all levels, on molecular level, DNA level, up into even storing trauma within the body until we're able to work through it.
So how did you know that your soul was fragmented, and what would that feel like? Probably not good.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of us, I mean, we adapt as humans. So I don't know that I would walk up to someone on the street and know that there was a fragment of their soul. It's very much like within several, I mean, I worked before studying shamanism. I worked with my shaman for, over 2 years. And so through that course of work, when we found like the other tools weren't quite helpful, or we found this kind of roadblock where like, this feels like cement and concrete. This feels like something deeper. And we were able to figure out, working with guides and working with, her deep intuition, that there was actually this element that we needed to kind of pull back together. And I think if anyone has felt unwhole, where you're just like, there's just something, I've done a lot of work, there's just something that I can't quite articulate. Because when she kind of mentioned it, it immediately resonated. And I was like, oh, that feels, I mean, ultimately true on a soul level, that feels like there's something there. And I think if anyone that has had, very traumatic experiences or experiences of feeling unsafe, um, and, perhaps maybe experiences that are, not to speak specifically on clients, but I've had them not have what you would think as traumatic experiences, but truly their soul was just like, oh, there's a lesson here, and you're not quite ready for this part of your wholeness to be together. It's actually going to kind of be in the ether until then. It's gonna be over there for now. And I know that's kind of a weird way to talk about it, but it is, I mean, that's why I do love this work is because it's a bit unexplainable at times. And yet the results people have and the experiences people have and the truth they feel in their body, that's just incredible.
Awesome. So most of your clients are women, like entrepreneurs or leaders or in corporate. Maybe some of them are doing IT and engineering and
Yep.
things like that. So what are they experiencing that makes them come and find you, and how do they find you?
Yeah, so oftentimes they'll find me at different events through my podcast and at LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn. I try to speak to the experiences that I've had. I speak to that feeling of overwhelm, and there's a sense that especially we as women hit where we go like, I've changed a lot in my life, and yet I'm still not happy. Or I've built my dream life on paper, right? I have you know the home I love. I live in an amazing place. I have a great partner, and I've hit that whole checklist, and yet there's an emptiness or there's a lack of, content and a yearning for something more. And it's not like we're given tools immediately to kind of solve that for ourselves. I feel like oftentimes as we hit new thresholds, it's a beautiful time for a mentor, a coach, or even just someone that is offering wisdom to say, oh, here's a level of expansion that you're ready for, but maybe didn't know how to act on and to really get clear about what you're moving towards.
Hmm. And does it usually result in a career change or
It
not necessarily?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely can. It's been a career change. It's been a change in the number of hours. It has been to move into more consulting work. It's been to sell companies, start new companies. Really those like truly pivotal moments where your sense of safety and security is is on the line and you go, oh, is this the right call? It's those moments where you feel the need to have some backup and support, and your own inner knowing and intuition, right? I want everyone to have discernment when you're making big life decisions. Your inner knowing is always key above everything else, but it's really helpful when you have someone kind of holding your hand through it and saying like, what you're experiencing is part of a cycle that is like I can set you up for success to say like, hey, this is probably coming because you're right at that point where you're going to have a setback. You're going to have something that's going to make you question whether or not this is the right choice for you. And that's really, really common and exactly the point where most people get discouraged when doing this work on their own.
Right. So they're coming to you to s- feeling like something's missing or there's a piece missing or something's not quite right. Um, and are you working with people one-on-one or groups or both?
Yeah, most of my work up until date has been one-on-one. I am looking at doing some group work, likely either later this year or early 2027. And then I have my speaking engagements and workshops and things, which is, more in the group style. I love one-on-one. I find that um, it's so beautiful to have that hour together where we're doing really deep work and you're able to ask questions in a very like safe space. Women will open up, about all facets of their life in a way that maybe in a group there would be some hesitancy. And I find that, that's just really nice, especially if there's someone that truly are dealing with things they feel ill prepared to deal with, and also a lot of my work is around income with people and income ceilings that they've hit. And so when we're able to work through those, and people can be funny about money, right? Sometimes it really helps for them to kind of get the kind of answers they were searching for and talk about it in a beautiful way.
So do you help them get in touch with their guides or yeah, and help figure out um, sort of what the pivot should be or what their soul calling is?
Absolutely. And guides are part of it. I also have I'm a collector of knowledge, and so I also use astrology and their North Node. And so the reason why my company is called Musics and Modalities because I truly have the toolkit, not only as a shaman, but these other incredible tools that we can call upon. Because it's lovely to have a guide, but I also want people to have a few different points of information. And that way we can really drill down into what works best for them. Because it's one thing to say, oh, you should go in this direction for, your company or your life. It's another to say, okay, this is the direction you're moving. Here's a full strategy for how to do that. Here's your week, using astrology, we can build your week to be most in sync with your energy, to feel really supported and continue that. I'm someone I like to feel like there's a village working with me, and that's what I try to provide through those different tools. Part of it is mindset, accountability, of course, energy clearing because you can't like gratitude your way out of entities, energies, past life clearings, things like that. It's just unfortunate that it's really challenging to do that, as well as figuring out. I would say, how do I say this the right way? When someone's quantum leaping, so meaning their current reality, they're moving into that one of the highest levels that's available to them, we're able to work together to figure out how to keep them on that path so they don't necessarily have energetic kind of blowback from that and are prepared physically for that. Because oftentimes when you quantum leap, you can get very tired and things like that. And so it's really helpful when you're like, oh, wow, my whole life has changed. And also, I feel good in my body. And also, I feel like I'm getting enough sleep to support my new reality.
A quantum leap. Is this a spiritual thing, an energetic thing, or metaphorically, a quantum leap?
It's an energetic thing. It's also quantum mechanics is studied in physics as well, and so it's kind of that beautiful intersection of science and spirituality. And so that idea is that our actions and decisions as well as our mindset can create, if there are different paths available to us, kind of a fast pass, the idea like we have basically a free toll road available to us where we're able to kind of circumvent the traffic or the delays in time that maybe would have happened. And so I'm not sure if you've had any of those in your life. I'm sure you have, where you were like, wow, I thought this was going to take me a year or two, and actually in 3 or 6 months, I'm there.
Yeah, although I tend to be pretty methodical
Oh,
about stuff. So,
fair.
but I eventually get there. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So, it- I hear the word alignment a lot these days. Is that what we're talking about here? Helping people get into alignment and alignment with what?
I know it's starting to become one of those words that it's said so often. It's like strategy. You're like, "Ugh,
Yeah,
well, okay.
please explain.
Yeah. I love the word resonant. I feel like when you hear bells ringing, whether like in like a courtyard, there's that feeling in your body or bass set, at a concert, and you're just like, oh wow, I feel like the full energy in my body. It's oftentimes when people get goosebumps when you hear something that is so true that you can't ignore it, that it makes you like pay attention. There's an awareness, kind of across your mind, body, and spirit.
Mm.
That's that beautiful alignment. Now, I do think people go in and out of alignment, right? We make decisions to try to make the best next choice, and maybe as well as living in alignment, I would say is trying to live as close to the highest version of yourself, your higher self, the truest guide we have, right? Which is like us, but like up, up, up there, that's really kind of guiding us. And so in terms of alignment, I do think that there is a kind of North Star we're moving towards. And it is similar to kind of that dream life checklist, right? Where like something that felt in alignment for you, 2 years ago, that's not going to be the same energy, right? We're always growing and changing as humans. And it's beautiful to acknowledge and give grace when you're like, oh, I thought that was resonant. And maybe it was, and maybe you had a quantum leap and you're like, oh, okay, actually something new is really resonant in my body and calling my attention and needs me to put kind of the effort there.
You really have to pay attention to your body, don't you? To, to, to figure these
Absolutely.
things out. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know what their North Star is. And so how can we tell if, we've gone on a path and maybe it's been circuitous or it's gone here, there, or everywhere, but here we are.
Mhm.
Am I on the right path? How do I know if I'm following, if I'm heading towards my true North Star?
I think a few different ways. I think from an astrology perspective, I use what's called the North Node, and the moon has the North and South nodes, and it's in everyone's birth chart. You have one, and based on its placement and some information around it, you can actually use that to kind of say these are the experiences in this lifetime that's a part of your destiny, as well as the gifts you've been given. So that's one part that I work with people on without using that, or maybe, it feels unavailable to people, I would say, I was trying to think through the best way to phrase this. I would say living in alignment with your values would be the second one. Because your values, I don't find that values change very much over time. I find that they crystallize. I find that you get really, really sharp with them in a good way. And sometimes people are like, oh, I don't actually know my values. And like, that's okay. We can uncover them. But I don't think it's something you're building for the first time. And I also think kind of the third element to that North Star is it in flow or not? And I find that when I am trying to make something happen from ego, or I'm trying to make something happen because someone else says it's a good idea, there are roadblocks and issues and challenges, and there's just a lack of flow. There's a lack of ease with it. And, I'm not saying that across the board everything will be easy breezy with you, going after your destiny. And yet there's going to be moments where you go that continue to build, where you go, oh, wow. It feels like for anyone else, this would have been a lot more challenging, but I'm meant to do this. I'm meant to be here. And that's the only way I can look back and kind of rationalize why this has happened.
Yeah, and things sort of fall into place,
Yeah.
and you get an idea that comes out of the blue or something, and there's different, I guess there are different ways of picking up on these clues, right?
Yeah.
Because it's but let me ask you, do you believe that we, as souls determine basically this path before we come here? And then, of course, we don't have a clue what it is when we get here, and we have all this free will to mess it up. Um, is that basically how it works in your view?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overlap. So I think one of the fundamental viewpoints I have is from Journey of the Soul, the book Journey of the Soul, and I apologize, I can't remember the author right offhand. And what I love about that book is it takes that beautiful kind of scientific view where it talks about case studies of people talking about their experiences and it's not called the in-between, but kind of,
Hmm.
being on Earth, and then being a part of uh, back to source point and things like that. And so I definitely believe and feel that our souls kind of sign up for a journey. Yeah, there are specific things they're trying to accomplish and to get closer to enlightenment, to get closer to, um, y- we have contracts as souls as well, maybe closer to kind of changing those. I believe we choose who our parents are, or, maybe it's a one of several choices and you do the best you can to figure out kind of what that experience is going to be. And I also believe we have a soul family that kind of comes with us, and you meet those incredible people and maybe they're not necessarily a sibling, or maybe they're not in your everyday immediate family, but hopefully there's someone close to you in some capacity. But I think there's people you come across in this lifetime that you go, there's no other explanation except that our souls know each other.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been walking down the street and just for some unknown reason lock eyes with the person, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of stunned because I feel like I know that person like really well, that they're almost me in a
Yeah.
way, but obviously, we don't know each other and it would just pass on by.
Yeah.
So I sometimes wonder, you know, maybe in some other lifetime that was someone significant to me. But, why
Absolutely.
they're showing up here now, I don't know.
Yeah. And
It's
I
a
also, as
mystery.
it is, but as part of that, like, I talk about being, and there's still a part of me that there's still a lot of me that has a high level of discernment, and there's still a part of me that is skeptical
Yeah,
at times. But I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of like putting in my calendar where things happened. Because I love to look back at the cycles of growth, of change. I use my camera roll a lot to kind of document things like that. Because I do feel like a scientist in a lab at times, going like, okay, let me, put the pieces together of what happened here, there, what was the astrology, how was I feeling, what was going on in my life and the themes I was working through. And so it's kind of cool.
interesting. That is a great suggestion for people just to get started on this whole alignment thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, write down, notice anything like that that happens that makes you feel a certain way
Yeah.
and write it down. I mean, I know I write down my dreams, which is quite interesting because when you go, I forget them. You go back and
Yeah.
read that. Oh, and you have a completely different perspective on the meaning of it than you
Mm.
did at the time because of things that have happened. So I think journaling is an awesome idea for anyone. Um, Also, I'm kind of been asking everybody this, but what do you think about the ascension and the ascension, the you know, the thinning of the veil and people becoming more intuitive and more people becoming more intuitive? Is that happening? And where's it going, if it is? Do you
Yeah.
think?
I've really focused on the inner knowing people have. And the reason why is sometimes ego can be very sneaky. And so there's a level of intuition, especially when you're starting you're a little baby in the spiritual world, right? You're finding your steps. I definitely had this, in my like late 20s, and I was like, oh wow, like, just trying to either guess things or like play different games or figure out like what were the limits of my intuition, as you should, right? You feel like just
Sure.
like when Spider-Man got bit by a spider, it's like, oh, how far can I go, And so I say that because I think at times we could focus more on the stewardship, on what our inner knowing is teaching us and how we can, you know, um, kind of have the values of people, planet, then profit, or then, kind of existing, surviving, what have you. And I also think that there is truth to people being much more open. I remember in the 90s, this was not like we had the craft, right? Like it was
Yeah.
witchcraft only, and like, or Buffy and like vampires, and, it was all very supernatural. And that was the bucket we had. And now we have this beautiful range of people that have experiences, in shamanism, in witchcraft, in astrology, and all of these different tools um, and beliefs and spirituality. And I also want to make sure that we keep our core tenets of spending time in nature, of, the things that really matter, rather than, getting on social media and trying to guess or hypothesize what the week's energy is going to be like. And I think there's value in that too, but I just want to make sure we have a bit more balance within that. Um, with where we're going with it, I think that really is understanding the systems in place, kind of across Earth, that have maybe not been supporting us, supporting our health, our growth, and how we can hopefully help them elevate and level up, in ways that are perhaps unheard of, or perhaps are a remembering of, thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's just going to carry on. It's just going to continue. It started off slow,
Yeah.
but it's definitely kind of got a full head of steam at this point, and it can only be good.
Right.
It can't be bad. So there's that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So Tristan, do you have a final message for us today?
Yeah, so we've talked about kind of the North Star, and really I wanted to touch briefly on legacy and the reason why it's kind of the core of my work. And that's because the kind of where we spend our time, where we spend our energy, and where we spend our money is really kind of the foundation of our legacy. A legacy isn't a name on a building, it's not those kind of big old school ways of thinking. It really is where we spend our attention and our thoughtfulness. And it's a beautiful invitation to just really have autonomy for that in every single person's listening life.
Awesome. And I think rather than having your name on a building, let's pass on your values. Let's pass on values to
Exactly.
the next generation.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Tristan, for being here. And how do people get hold of you to book a session?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm at musingsandmodalities.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn under Tristen Stawicki. I think I'm the only one in the whole world, so very easy to find.
Awesome. Tristan is one of a kind. That's beautiful. Thanks for
Thanks.
being here. And my name is Bev Young, and I help spiritual and heart-centered entrepreneurs get more credibility and visibility online with websites they love and that work. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now, Tristan.